Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever the fuck you're listening, watching. This is another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk Season 2. I got my main man Gary here via video or via voice. No video tonight. Nonetheless, Gary is here. Gary, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. We're on the road a little bit here, going to see some family, but ready for a good show tonight.
Good deal. Good deal. Um, Gary Free Senior, hello to you, good sir. Hello. Are you visiting your parents, Gary? Little technical difficulties there with Gary. Uh, but first and foremost, want to start off the episode tonight on a more somber note, um, talking about the Virginia shooting that happened early Monday morning. Former football player, three football players on the Virginia football team passed away. Another two were injured. Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Devin Chandler were the three victims that died early Monday morning. So just want to take a moment of silence to honor those three members of the football community and the Virginia Virginia football team as well. All right, again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the Virginia football family, Virginia school, and the victims' families as well. This week's game has been canceled. I believe they were playing the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. So that game has been canceled as of this week. So thoughts and prayers go out to the whole Virginia football family. So with that being said, let's get right into it and let's take a look back at last week's games here and start off Friday, 55-17 USC over Colorado. Kind of a slow start to begin, and then all of a sudden USC turned on the Jets and got it going there. So USC got it done.
This one felt like Colorado was gonna maybe do what Arizona did to them, but then USC kind of ran away. So
yeah,
kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But USC did pull out the victory there, and got it going there when they needed to. And I believe they still covered as well. So moving on, Saturday's game, Michigan, Nebraska, 34-3 Michigan. They ended up covering. I believe when we did the episode last week, I think it was 29 point spread, and by Saturday it was up to 31. So yeah, they got it. They got it there. Nebraska hung with them for about the first quarter. Then after that, it was all Michigan. After that, Nebraska for the fifth straight year not going bowling. So yeah, great time to be a Husker fan. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't want to pour any salt in the wounds. I'll just say this, that Michigan has proven they're one of the best teams in the country. And Nebraska, I think that they're going to have to make some decisions here they've got to change the culture there in Nebraska. I think the recruiting has been tough, and the Scott Frost era didn't bring the nostalgia and success that I think everybody thought it would. I thought it would, to be honest. The success he had at UCF, and he was kind of the beloved son, right, of Nebraska football. It's clear there that I don't know if they're resting on laurels in the athletic department or what, but I don't know that they're dedicating maybe the resources they need to get the football program back to where it is, because I don't think it's a Nebraska thing. because the volleyball team is incredible. The basketball team has been really good for the last couple of years. The baseball team has been pretty good. It's not a Nebraska thing where we see with some schools, it's hard to get guys to come to that school because of location or whatever. They've got to do something to get Nebraska back to being a proud football program. And they were for the longest time. And it's been a struggle, and I feel for you. I feel for all Husker fans, because college football, in my opinion, is better when Nebraska's good, because that's a really, really good fan base.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head there. It's not, it's not a money standpoint by any means. It's not an NIL thing. Nebraska has the money. And like you said, we all thought Scott Frost was the man to bring the program back, and he wasn't. They let him get away with a lot of stuff, and then after they let him go, and Mickey Joseph becomes the interim, and he changes some things up in practice, and you hear what they changed up, and you're just like, what? Like tackling drills, like they weren't tackling in practice, and it was evident on the field. They sucked at tackling.
Yep.
And just some other things.
It is wild to hear some of the stories of things that they didn't do under Scott Frost, or like details that they ignored under Scott Frost. You can't do those sorts of things and be successful at the highest level of football, like of college football. Like you can't.
Well, and at the same time, you have Scott wasn't getting the 5-star recruits, okay, which you don't need to all the time either, okay?
Right.
But when you're getting 3- and 4-star recruits coming out of high school,
and those are your crown jewels,
you need to develop them.
You have to develop them.
There's been no development. You take a look at Alabama. You take a look at Ohio State, okay? 2 perennial powerhouses that are constantly in the playoff contention, the championship talk every year, year in, year out, okay? If a starting quarterback goes out, it's next man up.
Yep.
And that quarterback is pretty solid, okay?
Yep.
Nebraska has a quarterback in Casey Thompson who was a pretty big recruit, going into Texas. They got him in the transfer portal. But look at what they have as backups. They have Purdy. They have Logan Smothers. Decent quarterbacks, but there hasn't been any development with those guys. And you even have a coach as Mark Whipple, who came over from Pitt, who had Kenny Pickett, and you saw what he did with Kenny Pickett. So it's really hard to watch when you have these guys that are in the system for, say a year or two, and they're still playing like the first year they were there. There hasn't been any improvement whatsoever, to make that big step to that next level. And I think, and Mickey Joseph hit the nail on the head. It's recruiting, and it's that progression from day one to where you are now. And they haven't been doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, enough talk about Nebraska. Let's move on. Indiana, Ohio State. Ohio State really didn't let off the gas here. 56-14, all Ohio State in this one. Nothing much else needs to be said other than CJ Stroud's just building up those Heisman numbers each and every week. Missouri, Tennessee, kind of a slow starting game here for Tennessee, but they did turn on the throttles there and got the victory 66-24. Hendon Hooker brought him back to life, and him and CJ Stroud are 1-2 in the Heisman. You can take your pick on who's 1, who's 2. In Vegas's eyes, he's number 2.
Yep.
But nonetheless, Tennessee got back on track here, and 66-24 over Missouri. LSU, Arkansas. This was a good ball game. good,
Yeah, it
good
was.
ball game. And Arkansas had it. They had it in within reach, but they just didn't get the job done. Penalties, a couple turnovers. LSU came out victorious here, 13-10. And you and I both thought Gary Woo Pig Sooie
Yeah.
was coming out victorious here, and they should have got the victory. They should have, but they let it go.
I think this game was a microcosm of Arkansas season, honestly. Um, they they had this game. They should have won this game, in my opinion. I don't know what it is about this team, but last year they were making plays when push came to shove, when it was crunch time. They were able to kind of, bear down and make a play. This year it's like the exact opposite. When it could be the worst possible time to hurt your team the most, that's when they make their mistakes. And they did it against LSU multiple times. And, you lose by a field goal at home against a heavily favored team. Well, they weren't actually heavily favored by Vegas, but I think in a lot of people's eyes, LSU was a heavy favorite, being the number 6 or 8 team coming into the game. You have to look at this as Arkansas, and this is probably game number 3 of the season that you look at it and say, hell, we got a fucking loss, another loss in the L column, but it's a game we played well enough we should have won against A&M. They had the bonehead fumble at the goal line that got returned for a touchdown, and you're just making these mistakes you can't make, and it doesn't feel like this is the same team from last year when Sam Pittman really turned things around for Arkansas. It feels like they took a huge step backward this year.
Yeah.
And I feel for them because they were a really good team last year. They were fun to watch.
They were absolutely. Notre Dame Navy. Notre Dame scoots on by with a 35-32 victory here. It seemed like Notre Dame had this one handled and in control. And then I don't know what they did here, but Navy came storming back and made it a ball game.
Yeah, they let their foot off the gas, and Navy kicked in the door and said, hey, we're here. We're not going away. And they got within a field goal late. They kind of ran out of time, and they had so much momentum that if there was probably another 3 minutes in that game, Navy probably wins a game that Notre Dame was handily in front. Like you said, they were up 17 and with 6 or 7 minutes to go, and Navy closed it to 3 points. So they really took their foot off the gas and almost paid for it. But, Notre Dame has recovered well, and I like that for Marcus Freeman because I like the guy. I like, his attitude around the building, and I hope for good things for him. But a couple of tough losses to start the season, and they've turned it around, and they look like a pretty good ball club right now. They can run the ball well. They play good defense with the exception of late in that game. They were doing pretty good against that triple option. But yeah, tough one for Navy because it's been a tough season. It's been a tough 2 seasons for Navy, really. And this one would have been a nice feather in the cap for Niumatalolo, but it's tough there. It's hard to recruit at the service academies too. Air Force, Army, and Navy all deal with it. It isn't like the old, the 40s, 50s, 60s when the naval academies could offer you a job afterwards, and that was a big deal in America. The money's too good in sports now that, kids go to the service academy because they want to serve their country, not because they want to play football,
Yep. Absolutely. Moving on, Purdue, Illinois. The Boilermakers came out victorious 31-24, and we both called it here, Gary.
No.
We weren't going back on the Illini train. We went with the Spoilermakers, and they proved us right this week.
Yeah, big win for them. It always seems like they've got one in them every season, right? 1 or 2 where they just come out and they surprise somebody, and then Illinois was on the receiving end of it. I think Illinois got exposed a little bit the last 2 weeks for kind of being the flash in the pan that they were. They still played decent defense, but Purdue was able to move the ball against them. And I think Illinois has kind of come crashing back to earth after a really good start to the season. But yeah, Purdue, at least once a year, man, Spoilermakers moniker comes out.
Yep, absolutely. Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Vanderbilt ends the SEC conference losing streak.
Yep.
24-21.
Against a ranked Kentucky team, too.
Yeah.
What
Man,
happened to Kentucky, man?
ever since that South Carolina ball game, bud.
Yep. Yep. They've not been good since then.
Nope.
It's tough.
Nope.
It's a tough go. And I don't think that Kentucky's going to be out on Stoops, but they're going to need to win a game or two down the stretch here to get a good feeling going into next year. I know they've got a pretty good recruiting class, but you want to have some momentum going into the offseason, and you don't want to be losing games like Vanderbilt. And, this is a tough one. The South Carolina one, Carolina was at home. They had some swagger going, but this one's tough. At Kentucky, Vanderbilt hasn't won in probably 40 years in the SEC, and they get one. So, that's a tough one to swallow.
Yeah. Alabama, Ole Miss. This was a good ball game. Ole Miss kind of had it, and then they let it slip through their hands too. And Alabama comes out victorious, 30-24 here. You had Alabama. I had Ole Miss. It was a good ball game. Good ball game. And that's just that's what we like to see. We like to see the upsets, but we like to see the good ball games too. And I'm glad we got a good ball game here.
Yeah, this was a fantastic watch. There were a couple of games this weekend that were really, really exciting, right down to the final whistle, and this was one of them. And it was a great watch. Anytime you get Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban on the same field too, there's going to be some entertainment. So
get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, absolutely. So great game. This was, in my opinion, I think this was a big win for Alabama, looking at the season they've had and maybe the risk of some of the transfer portal stuff. For me, I don't know that I would ever have at the beginning of the season. I don't know that I would have ever thought I'd be saying that a win late in the season was a big win for Bama that didn't have playoff implications. But I feel like this was a pretty big one for them to say, okay, we're still Alabama, right? We're still Alabama. We'll be back next year. Because I think you lose 4 or 5, 4, possibly 5 games for Alabama. That's a dreadful season. And the sky might be falling down there in Tuscaloosa as those fans, they're just so used to winning every damn game.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Oh, all right. Louisville, Clemson. Clemson comes out victorious 31-16. And it just I don't know. Clemson has just kind of lost their luster. Maybe it's just because they still have DJ there as quarterback.
Yeah. It never looks as good as you think it should, right?
Yeah.
Like that offense they've got some talent. They've got some guys on the outside. They've got some good running backs, pretty good offensive line, but DJ he doesn't have it. And again, I'm going to say it. I don't know what it is that keeps Dabo coming back to that well and saying, yep, give me some more of that water. I just don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't get it either. Oh, Maryland, Penn State, 30-0. Goose egg for Maryland. And here's where I text you this past weekend. And I said, Penn State's for real. Penn State has not had those letdown games this year like they have in years past under James Franklin.
Yep, absolutely.
They have the one loss to Michigan, I believe.
Yep.
And other than that, they've been playing good. Yeah. They've been playing solid football, and so I'm on board with them now.
Yeah, me too. This feels like the season that maybe they wish they'd have had the last few seasons, and they'd be in a lot better spot. Especially from like a recruiting perspective, you get on those big stages. But this is a team that has more resilience than we've seen in past seasons, and this is a great season for them, assuming, of course, that they keep it going down the stretch here. To just kick the stigma, like we all know what Penn State's done the last few years down the stretch in these seasons. After being ranked high, they get a big game against either Ohio State or they get against Michigan. They get beat up a little bit, and then they just start losing games they shouldn't lose. They're not doing that this year. And you can kick that stigma away and say, okay, we're ready for, next year, really realistically, right? They don't necessarily, I don't know that they're going to have a shot at getting in unless there's some serious chaos. But next year, right? It's, hey, we're here. We're going to make a run at this playoff thing. If we can get over the hump against Ohio State and against Michigan, maybe it's our year next year.
Yeah, absolutely, bud. Absolutely.
For all of the game management issues and the late season collapses, James Franklin continues to recruit really well there in Happy Valley.
Yes, he does. Boston College, NC State. Boston College with a shocker, 21-20. Wolfpack goes down.
Wow.
Wow is right.
They have fallen apart. They miss Leary badly, but man, this is bad because Boston College is not a good football team.
No, they are not.
They are not.
We'll talk a little bit more about NC State later.
Yeah.
UCF Tulane. This was another good ball game. UCF was up by 2 scores at one point in time, but this one kind of came down to the wire too. But the Knights come out victorious against the Green Wave there, 38-31.
Yeah, you called this one. I was on Tulane. You had the Knights. They kind of ran away, and Tulane didn't give up. They got back in the game late and I believe they had the ball with a few minutes left with a chance. They got stopped on a 4th down, if I recall correctly, and UCF pulled it off. And that's a feather in the cap win against another ranked team in your conference. I think everybody had crowned Tulane essentially in that conference, and UCF said, well, no, not so fast. So good win for them. And, UCF is that team. They're always dangerous, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia, Mississippi State. Georgia 45, Mississippi State 19. Not a good ball game here by Mississippi State. Georgia with another statement win here. And Mike Leach with some great commentary as well at the halftime break. So that's all we could ask for. That's all we were hoping for as well.
He's a fucking national treasure, man.
He's a gem, bud. He is a gem. All right, moving on. Washington, Oregon. This one came down to the wire as well. Washington, the Huskies, go into Eugene and beat the Ducks 37-34. And there goes Oregon's title chances right there, bud. There goes the off chances.
Yeah, for sure. This is one I'll pat myself on the back here. I called this upset. Just Oregon defensively, has some holes, and I thought it was going to be a shootout. I thought we might get in the 80s. We got close, but Penix in that Washington offense did enough to get the job done here against Oregon. And again, we've got a second straight year that the CFP committee has Oregon ranked above, everybody in the Pac-12 and ranked a little higher than I think they should be. And they go and take an L here. And Washington's a ranked team, and they've been ranked pretty high and at points in the season. But, that's really a game Oregon has their sights set on the playoff. And that's one that maybe they looked a little past Washington, thinking that they needed to gear up for a late run here. But you can't overlook a team that's got as much offensive firepower as Washington does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Both, Penix is playing good this year, so give credit where credit's due. So good ball game there. Good ball game all the way around. Yep. Kansas State, Baylor, K-State 31, Baylor 3. Did not see this kind of a ball game. Give credit where credit's due to the Wildcats.
Yeah.
But what has happened to Baylor this year?
I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. We watched them play an unbelievable game in the Big 12 championship last year against Oklahoma State with the stop on the goal line. And they were highly ranked to start the season. They got off to an okay start, but they have just they hit the midseason wall, and they're not playing good football right now, as evidenced by this score.
Yeah, and they had some returners coming back too.
They did. Same with OK State. It's almost like the Big 12 championship game last year was the pinnacle for both of these programs. It's crazy.
Yeah. TCU, Texas. TCU, the Horned Frogs, baby, come out victorious 17-10. Everyone was picking Texas here. Not me.
Vegas had Texas a fucking tutty favorite.
Yeah, not me, buddy. Not me. Horned Frogs are for real.
You called it. I had Texas winning by a field goal. I had a tight game, but Texas coming out on top. You called it, man. You nailed this one. TCU, that defense is what surprised me. Honestly, I thought if TCU was going to win this game, it was going to be 31-30, something along those lines. But TCU's defense was suffocating against Ewers in that offense, especially Bijan Robinson, who's probably going to be the first running back off the board in next year's draft. That was an unbelievable game by a TCU defense that's been cut up at times by some inferior opponents. You know, that game against Kansas where they scored like 90 points combined. This was a very different TCU defense against a really talented Texas offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. North Carolina, Wake Forest. North Carolina comes out on top, buddy. 36-34. Another nail biter.
Yeah.
Drake May, baby.
Yeah.
Drake May. Getting the job done for the Tar Heels.
Yep. You know what? I think he's going to end up in New York at the end of the year. Honestly, I think he's going to end up in New York at the end of the year. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman this year, but I think he's going to be the preseason favorite next year. And I think he's going to be a finalist this year in New York City.
Yeah, I agree.
You're gonna get to take a lot of victory laps because you've been on the Drake May train since about week 5.
Hey, you know, I call it like I see it, bud.
Hey, you're nailing it, man. You're nailing it.
Oh. All right, moving on. Florida State, Syracuse. Florida State just taking it to the Syracuse there, 38-3. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I said it when they were ranked 15, and then they ended up winning that game, and this is more of the Syracuse team I sort of expected to see this year. It was a magical ride for about 6 weeks. And then now they've crashed back to earth, really fell on their face. And this is kind of the culmination of that, getting beat up by Florida State's. I think they've got a lot of talent. I don't know that I would put Florida State in the top 25 to finish the season, but they're a talented squad, and they really took it to Syracuse.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And yeah, you hit it on the head. You know, Syracuse just ever since that Clemson game, they've just gone downhill ever since.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Utah, Stanford. The Utes come out victorious 42-7. Stanford's just not playing football at all this year.
They're ready for college basketball season.
They are. Yeah. Yep. So
the women's team is what, 3rd in the nation right now? So
yeah, they're good. Yeah, they're pretty solid.
This was, I mean, Stanford always feels like they'll be a dangerous team. Not this year. Not this year at all. Utah's on a mission. I mean, they've got a chance, an outside chance, if they can go win the Pac-12 championship and some stuff happens in front of them. They're still in the hunt for a potential playoff, kind of on the outside looking in, but they're not dead in the water yet. And I think that what we saw this weekend really putting it on Stanford is Utah's way of saying, hey, if we're going to do this thing, we need a lot of style points and we need help in front of us. And Washington beating Oregon is one of those helpers that they needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, last game of the night, Arizona, UCLA. Arizona.
Yeah.
34-28 over the Fighting Chips. Man. Yeah. Shocker here. Shocker.
Yeah, I don't this was a really, really ugly game from UCLA in a couple of different ways. They were careless on offense and defensively. Arizona has surprised a couple of teams, USC being one of them, and then UCLA again this week. It just, I don't know. Arizona's offense doesn't have anybody that you look at and say, God, that's one of the best players in college football at his position. But they just continue to be able to score points against some of these Pac-12 teams. And I know defense is optional in the Pac-12 often, but golly, 34 points to Arizona and UCLA. at one point this season, we're talking Heisman contender, we're talking playoffs possibly. It might have been a little premature, but God, I did not see this coming.
No,
Home too.
Absolutely not, bud.
Oh.
Absolutely not. Man, that was a bad loss by you.
Bad loss, man.
A bad loss.
Man, my fighting chips taking a bad hell.
Yep. All right. That was our Week 11 review there. Let's take a quick sponsor break before we preview this week's top 25 matchups. So our sponsor break is brought to you by PocketParaClub.com. Pocket Para Club, club number 26881. PocketParaClub.com. Road Runners, meet. All right. That sponsor break was brought to you by PocketParaClub.com. Pocket Para Club, club number 26881. All right. We reviewed week 11. Let's go ahead and preview this week's top 25 matchups here. Starting off, we got Thursday. Tomorrow, baby. We got SMU Tulane. Tulane's a 3.5-point favorite. Gary, who do you got?
Man, this one I waffled on hard looking at this game. Smooth's better than I think they get credit for, but give me Tulane. That line by Vegas feels about right. If you got an over-under line, I look at it. If it's less than 70, take the over. Honestly, I think this game is going to be a fucking sprint, little track meet here down in Tulane. So give me Tulane, but I think it's going to be tight.
All righty. Yep. I got Tulane as well here. Actually, I don't think it's going to be tight. I think Tulane's going to win by at least 2 scores here.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with you, though. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
Tennessee, South Carolina. Tennessee's a 21.5-point favorite here at South Carolina. Night game. South Carolina is undefeated this year under the lights at home.
Yeah.
Who do you got first, Gary?
I'm going Tennessee. I think 21 feels about right. Honestly, that number's probably going to be a little sweat. Something like a 42-21, I think is going to be the final result of this game. But give me Tennessee. They're too much talent. I think South Carolina's got some good swagger, and they're kind of moving the program in the right direction. But Tennessee right now, to me, just has too much firepower.
Gary, you know where I live. I live in South Carolina.
I do.
But you know what, bud? Oh man, I know
you got it in you.
I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me. I'm going Tennessee.
Yeah,
in Tennessee. South Carolina's offense is just horrific.
They can't get anything going.
No,
they really can't.
And you can blame it on Rattler. You can blame it on the offensive coordinator. You can blame it on whoever.
There's a lot of blame to go around.
There is a lot of blame to go around there on that offensive side of the ball there.
Yep.
But no, give me Hendon Hooker. Give me the Vols. Man, there's a lot of money on that line right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, give me Tennessee. Navy, UCF. UCF is a 16.5-point favorite.
Notre Dame was too.
Yeah. Yep.
You got UCF?
I got UCF. I don't think I'm putting the points on it though.
That is a lot of points. Look, give me the midshipmen this week. I'm riding with the midshipmen.
Okay.
Give me them in an upset over UCF. I think that triple option is going to give UCF fits. Navy by a field goal.
All righty. Illinois, Michigan, 18-point favorite.
That's not enough.
Gary, I was, I'm going opposite here though.
Oh, what?
I'm going upset city. I'm going.
Big upset.
I'm going upset, and Brett Bielema is going to get them back on track after 2 straight losses that they should have won.
Wow.
I'm going Illinois, baby.
Big upset. Okay. I like the energy.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? Let's just fuck with Harbaugh here.
Hey.
Oh, I'm guessing you have Michigan, so yep. Yeah. Don't let your hate blind you. I know, bud. I know. Yeah, it's. I mean, I do hate them, but at least I'm not betting. If I was betting, then yes, I would be going with Michigan. But no, I'm going Illinois here. TCU, Baylor, TCU, 2.5-point favorite.
Right.
For the love of God.
I saw this number and I was like, what is Vegas trying to tell all of us?
Exactly.
Seriously. What is Vegas trying to tell all of us?
Love.
They were touchdown dogs last week, and now they're a fucking field goal favorite against a team that just lost 31-3 against Kansas State. At home. Mind you, Baylor was at home last week against Kansas State and lost 31-3. Vegas has lost their goddamn minds.
I agree, Gary.
This is one of those numbers that feels like a fucking trap number by Vegas, but I don't believe it. Give me TCU. I'm betting the mortgage on laying those fucking points. This is so disrespectful.
So disrespectful to them Horned Frogs.
Jesus.
Austin Peay, Alabama. There is no line, so Alabama is. Louisiana, Florida State. Florida State, 24-point favorite here. I'm taking Florida State, but I'm not taking the points.
No, that's too many points. By 14 or 17, Florida State.
Yeah. Aaron, Vegas thinks the Big 12 is unstable. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think so is the Pac-12.
Yeah, but they love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Kansas State, West Virginia, K-State, 7.5-point favorite. Man, here's another line, Gary. Here's another line. Yep. 7.5-point favorite against a 4-6 West Virginia team.
I know West Virginia's kind of tough, but yowzer, this feels like that's a low number. I'm gonna lay those points with Kansas State. I liked what I saw from them against Baylor. I've liked what I've seen from them quite a bit this season. Give me Kansas State. I'll lay those points.
All righty. Oregon State, Arizona State. Oregon State, 8-point favorites here at Arizona State.
I'm taking the upset.
Ooh-wee.
I got the Sun Devils at home against Oregon State. I'm just not a believer in Oregon State. This is such a Pac-12 bias from the committee, from the voters to have them this high. I don't believe it with Oregon State. Give me Arizona State in an upset here.
For a 2:15 kickoff time, huh?
Yeah. It's also like noon in Arizona, noon in Tucson or in Tempe.
Yeah, shoot. Why not? I'll go with you.
All right. Let's ride.
BC, Notre Dame, 21-point favorites here. Really? Boston College just got off upsetting.
Big upset.
The number 19 team in the country or whatever they were.
Yeah.
Wow.
They gonna do it again?
But you give them a 21-point spread here.
They gonna do it again?
No.
No.
I'll
take Notre Dame. 21 feels like too much, though. That team likes to run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe by 2 touchdowns, but I'll take Notre Dame, though.
Georgia, Kentucky, 22.5-point favorite. Oh, Might as well give it to me. Give me Georgia and the points.
Yeah, same. I'm gonna lay all of them.
Ohio State, Maryland. Ohio State, 27.5-point favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah, Maryland just got shut out by Penn State.
I know. I'm gonna lay those too.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well lay them.
Yeah.
Miami, Clemson. Miami, 19-point favorite.
I wish I could pick Miami to upset Clemson. That'd be a big upset. Miami just doesn't look good right now. They've got a long way to go to get back to prominence. I know everybody was like, "Oh, the U's back, the U's back." No, they're not. Give me Clemson. They're not going to blow them out by 19, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Penn State, Rutgers, Penn State, 19-point favorite here too.
Yeah, I'm going to lay those, though.
Yeah.
I'm not laying for Clemson, but I'll lay those. Penn State looks really good. Rutgers is they see once a year they have a little game where they kind of kick their feet and say, hey, we're still a football team, but not this one. Not this one. Penn State's going to roll them.
I agree. Cincinnati, Temple, Cincy, 17-point favorite. Yeah, I'll take both that.
Yeah. I'll take Cincy. This one, I'm not sure about the point spread, but Cincy's definitely going to win. I don't know that I would lay all those points, though.
Well, I'm going to, so. Georgia Tech, North Carolina, 21-point favorite. Sure.
Yeah, I think I'll lay those, but I'm not super confident in it because North Carolina's defense seems to let teams hang around. They score a ton of points, but Georgia Tech might put up some points in this game. 21's a lot, but I'm going to lay them and just hope that the defense shows up this week.
Yeah. Ole Miss, Arkansas, Ole Miss, 2.5-point favorite. This is another one of those that's like, what the fuck?
It is.
Give me Ole Miss and give me those points.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I wouldn't be super surprised if Arkansas kept this really close, though. 2.5, though. If it's just a field goal that they can cover the spread, I'll lay the points. If this was 3.5, I'd probably take the points with Arkansas. But I'm with you. Lay the points with Ole Miss.
Yeah. Okie State, Oklahoma, 7.5-point favorite. Ooh.
It feels weird, doesn't it?
This does. Yeah, absolutely.
Oklahoma's been such a weird enigma this season, but so is Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I would say take the over, whatever the over is. It's probably 72 or so. I would take the over. I think I'm going to take Oklahoma State in an upset in this one, though.
I'm going to agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just not a believer yet in Oklahoma to show up and play.
But at the same time, same with Oklahoma State. So it's
I agree.
Pick your poison.
Maybe flip a coin.
Yeah. USC, UCLA, USC, 2.5-point favorite. Another one.
Yeah. I feel like UCLA, maybe this was the game that caused that trip up last week against Arizona. They overlooked them, possibly. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna stay with UCLA. I'm gonna stay with the Fighting Chips. Give me UCLA in the upset here.
I'm going with you on this one as well, bud. And
nice.
Just because I just don't care for Lincoln Riley and Thompson, the Trojans. So
yeah.
UAB, LSU, 14.5-point favorite here.
They fucking better.
They're better, yeah.
Tough game last week, and I think LSU's offense got a little bit exposed that, they rely a lot on kind of gadget plays to beat teams, and Arkansas didn't really let them get to those gadget plays. UAB's not going to be able to do that, though. So LSU and 14 is probably a safe number, so probably lay the points, maybe by 17 or so.
Yeah. All righty. Colorado, Washington, 31-point favorite here. Yeah, might as well.
Aaron disagrees with us.
UAB will cover.
UAB will have to take the points with UAB.
That's fine by me.
But
Fine by me.
yeah, I listen. Lay the points with Washington. Colorado's bad. Colorado's bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Utah, Oregon. Oregon, 3-point favorite here. This one's a good one.
Cam Rising. Give me the Utes. Give me the Utes. I'm still not. I like what Oregon can do offensively. That defense is bad, and I think Utah's going to be able to beat them in a shootout. Utah's got a little more on defense in terms of athletes and physicality. I think that'll make the difference in this game. Give me Utah, probably a field goal, maybe a 32-29 game, something like that.
Who'd you pick here?
I got Utah in the upset.
It's at home. I'm going Ducks.
All right. I respect that.
So I'm going Ducks here. All righty. That was the Week 12 preview of the top 25 matchups. I will be right back, but Gary is going to get you into the Heisman stock report here while I take a quick 2-minute break. Gary, it is all yours, my friend.
All right, buddy. All right, so let's start at number 5 here. We're not going to see a lot of change this week. I think everything kind of held serve this week. Bo Nix in a tough loss, but he still was really productive in that game. So Stove's going to keep him there. I've got Stetson Bennett at number 5. No change here. That Georgia's offense doesn't run through him. Unfortunately for him, in terms of any Heisman consideration, that's just going to be the reality of it. So, I want to appreciate what Studson's done for the team. I want to appreciate what he does under center, but he's not going to get the numbers to really propel himself into the Heisman consideration nationally. But we're gonna keep appreciating him here on this show. Moving over to number 4, I've got Caleb Williams, and Stove still got Drake May. Just talked about it a moment ago. He's been on Drake May all season. I do think he's going to end up in New York by the end of the year, unless he just doesn't garner enough votes. Maybe they whittle it down to just 3, with either my number 3 coming up here in a moment, or Stove's number 3, who I've got at number 4 here with Caleb Williams. But I like Drake May. I think he's going to be the preseason favorite for the Heisman next year. Moving on to 3, I've got Blake Corum. Stove's got Caleb Williams. Blake Corum's the engine that makes that Michigan offense go. If it wasn't for the two guys at number 1 and number 2, I probably would have him as maybe my favorite to win the Heisman. I think he's the best non-quarterback in the nation. And I think it shows every Saturday when that Michigan team, when they need a big play, he's the guy that makes it for them. Caleb Williams, uber productive. Stowe's not a big fan of Lincoln Riley in that USC, Trojans program, but Caleb Williams just so uber productive. And it's hard to ignore the numbers that he's putting up. Number 2, Hendon Hooker for me, and CJ Stroud for Stove. We talked about it a moment ago. These are the top 2 guys in Vegas. You can flip-flop, you can flip a coin, kind of what you prefer, right? The team that's undefeated right now. Yeah, honestly, Aaron, I haven't been able to figure out yet what that is in his picture exactly. It looks almost like it's like the air pump for your helmet or something. I don't really know exactly what that is that he's got in his hand, but that is a good question. Shake weight, maybe. that'd be the ultimate reinforcement for Stone.
That's the whip for the Trojans when they were riding in the.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, when they're riding in the chariots.
Well, there you go, Aaron. Stove knew the answer. Right here at 2, though, Stove mentioned a moment ago, these are the top 2 guys. You could flip coin. For me, I went with the undefeated guy, really. I think that right now is the only difference between Hooker and Stroud for me. They're both super productive. They're both going to finish the season with 1,000 touchdowns and 10,000 yards. But right now, I think the fact that Stroud's team has that 0 in the loss column is a little bit of a nudge up for me. If they go and lose to Michigan, I easily could flip-flop these 2 and say that I think Hooker's had the more important season for Tennessee than CJ Stroud has had for Ohio State because of how much talent there is on that Ohio State team. And I could easily flip-flop those two if the records are even. But for me, because Ohio State's undefeated, that's kind of why I have Hendon Hooker here. And not to spoil number one, but it's CJ Stroud at number one. Stove, what's the difference for you between these two right now? Why you have Hooker over Stroud?
To me, it's the conference and the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Hendon Hooker has less weapons to work with than CJ Stroud. I mean, really, last week was about the first week that I saw Harrison Jr. Play. And
what a catch he had, though.
Holy shit. Yeah.
He's got fucking Gumby legs or something.
That dude is going to be a top pick.
Oh my God. He's going to be unbelievable.
But at the same, and so with that, Ohio State, they haven't played a lot of, top 25 matchups.
Yeah.
And honestly, CJ Stroud and Ohio State, I mean, they put up points, but at the same time, early on too in the season, they were playing, nobodies. I mean, nobodies. Okay. Hendon Hooker, who have they beat? Okay. They beat Alabama. They beat Ole Miss. They beat Kentucky. They beat Florida. All these teams have been in the top 25, and they lost to Georgia. Yes, they lost to Georgia by a couple scores. And Hendon Hooker didn't have a good game that game. Okay. But look at Georgia's defense. They're allowing less than 11 points per game.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of teams aren't going to have good games against Georgia.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's why I have Hendon Hooker at number one for me. And I get what you're saying too. The undefeated season. Absolutely. I mean, that's, to me, that's probably the categories that the voters look at. They look at how many games did your team win? What were your passing yards? How many touchdowns did you throw?
Yep, absolutely. And I can't argue against anything you said. Honestly, you're 100% right with what you said. The schedule for Hooker has been different. And for sure, Stroud hasn't played that tough schedule. But really for me, it did just boil kind of down to one team's undefeated, the other isn't.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I could flip-flop that too and go the same route, Yep. But for my reasons, that's why I have Stroud at number 2 and Hooker at 1 and you vice versa. So that's just what makes this show just awesome, bud.
Absolutely.
All righty. Thank you, Gary, for taking care of the Heisman there for us. Let's get into the last segment of the show, and that would be the CFP rankings here. So the top 5 stay the same: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, Tennessee. All right. From there, you have LSU, USC, Alabama, Clemson, and Utah rounding out the top 10. Gary, you have any issues with the?
I think I would move Utah over Clemson, but other than that, I think it's pretty set. With the results from the last couple of weeks, I think that it's fair 1 through 10, with the exception of I'd move Utah over Clemson.
So here's where I would have it. Okay, I would have Alabama at 6, and then probably Clemson, and then LSU, Utah,
Lost, but the wind knocked them off course and they clashed together in the sky as
All
the roaring of the sand.
My radio kicked on.
You're good, bud. You're good. And the only reason why I would put Alabama at number 6, and then from there, Alabama has 2 losses by 4 points.
Yeah.
to the number at the time number three ranked Tennessee and number 10 LSU.
Right.
I get LSU beat Alabama. I get it. It was by 1 in overtime. Okay.
Yeah.
Who did LSU lose to? They lost to Florida State, and they lost to. I can't even think of their other loss. But it wasn't
Tennessee.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Tennessee
And
beat them up. In Baton
handed.
Rouge, Tennessee beat them up. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have Tennessee at 5 and LSU at 6, I don't see it. So that's why I would put Alabama at 6, and then so on and so forth. USC,
That's fair.
I put USC at 10. They lost to Utah, and I just think that they are better than an LSU and Alabama. They could be better than Clemson. Yeah. So Clemson, you could flip flop there. But
I probably, honestly, looking past the top 10, I'm probably dropping Clemson behind a Penn State also.
Yeah, you could.
I really think that I would. Clemson hasn't been convincing in their wins, and they got really beat up in their loss. Clemson for me, and I get what you say about USC, and I think it's going to play out that way, right? I think, especially if UCLA beats them this weekend, but I don't see USC running the table the rest of the way. I think the Pac-12 is going to get left out this year again because they should, because it's not a good conference and the bias is weird. But I do think that, you moving USC down is going to be indicative of how kind of that I think their season is going to end.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Penn State, Oregon, North Carolina, Ole Miss, K-State, 10 through 15 there. Do you have any quarrels with any of that?
I mean, other than, I mentioned a moment ago, I might move Penn State up to 10, and Clemson out. I don't have a ton of qualms here. Oregon, maybe you could drop them a little lower, but they did lose to a highly ranked Washington team. So I don't know that I want to punish them too bad for that loss, but I don't have a ton of qualms here at 10 through 15 or 11 through 15.
Okay. UCLA, Washington, Notre Dame, Florida State, UCF. My biggest thing on this one is UCLA.
Yeah. How the hell did they stay this high?
They were number 12 last week. They lost to Arizona.
They should have dropped 8 to 10 spots with that loss to Arizona at home. They were home.
Yes. Okay.
Really bad Arizona team.
Okay. So we agree on UCLA. Are you good with everyone else there?
I think I have to be with Florida State, kind of the way the season's played out. But I also think that by the end of the season, Florida State's not going to be ranked. But right now, in this static kind of snapshot of this, I think I have to be okay with that. So for me, UCLA is my gripe here. Otherwise, I don't really have others. No.
Okay, so here's my other one. Okay, Florida State. Let's stick with Florida State. They were 23 last week. They beat Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, they beat them up bad, but it's Syracuse.
Yeah, but you go right below Florida State. Who do you have? UCF, Tulane. UCF just beat Tulane.
Yeah.
That was a 22-17. UCF was a 22. Tulane was 17.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense as far as that goes. I mean, I get it. UCF, they're not a Power 5 conference. I get it. Okay. Or the big name conference. Same with Tulane. You're not getting any love. But going back now to UCLA and losing to Arizona, let's look at number 24, NC State. Who the hell they just lose to?
Boston. My God.
Boston College. They just dropped 5 spots.
This fucking NC stuff is so weird. And you look at Florida State, they've got a couple of bad losses on their on their resume. I have to believe that the win over LSU is what's given them so much boost in the CFP's eyes. But Jesus Christ, why is NC State still in the top 25? That one blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, yours and mine both, bud. Are you good with then 21 through 25, other than NC State?
Yeah, Oregon State perplexes me a little bit, but I think that'll shake out this week when they get upset by Arizona State. So I'm okay with it for now.
Doesn't matter anyways until Aaron's got a point. I would say anyone, probably within at least the top 10 probably still has a fighting chance these last few weeks. But yeah, I mean, he's right. Essentially.
Oh, he's absolutely right that, in the grand scheme, right? Because the grand scheme is the playoff. Yeah, he's absolutely right. They don't really matter, right now, especially as we've gotten this late in the season. We're down to about 8 teams, I think, that really have a chance, and then 2 teams that probably, if a lot of chaos happens in front of them, could sneak in. So yeah, I think you're right. Like the top 10 are probably the only teams that, they're going to sit down and really scrutinize, and then the rest of it, maybe they're just throwing darts at the wall or something. I don't know. It seems like the only names that come up when they throw those darts are in the ACC or the Pac-12, though. It's so weird.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So we can only hope that the expansion comes sooner rather than later.
I'm excited, and I think eventually we're going to get to 16 total. I'm excited to see how this expansion goes the next couple of years. But I think we're going to get to the point where we're going to have 3 weeks of playoffs, honestly, or 4 weeks, sorry, a whole month of playoffs. We're going to start mid-December. We're going to start playoffs, and the championship game is going to be played second week of January, and it's going to be 4 weeks of fucking playoffs, 16 teams. I think so.
Yeah. Yep. Aaron, yeah, I totally agree with you. I said it just a little bit ago that, I thought Bama should be 6th there, just with their losses that they had, who they lost to, by how much and everything. Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that one. So
yeah, that's fair.
Well, Gary, another great week of college football behind us and another great week of college football ahead of us, bud. And it starts tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bud.
We just got off of 27 straight days, I think it was, and now we're picking back up with a nice week starting up on Thursday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
it's crunch time too, man. This is the point of the season. You can't lose a game if you've got any hope of getting in the playoff. You can't lose this late in the season. So it's crunch time, and these teams are really going to be, fine-tuning things and making sure they're ready to go for these last couple of games.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every week's moving week. Every week is moving.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, without further ado, that does it for this week's episode of Tailgate Trash Talk. I appreciate you, Gary, for joining on, even though it was just audio. Your company, your tutelage, your knowledge of the sport, and your carelessness on picking is always appreciated.
Absolutely, bud. You make it fun. Great show. I want to be on here as much as I can, even if it's just audio. So made my drive here go by a little quicker as well. So appreciate you, bud.
Good deal, bud. Good deal. All right. Well, hey, you drive safe, and we will we'll hold it down. And another great week of college football is upon us.
Yes, sir.
So, without further ado, for Gary, for myself, we are out.